Hey everyone, welcome back to a brand new episode of IELTS Speaking Saturdays. Let's get started with questions from section 1. Do you often use a dictionary? Well, I'm learning a bunch of languages at the moment: German, Italian, Russian, a bit of French as well, and there's a lot of online dictionaries that I enjoy using. Not all the time, though, sometimes, especially when you've reached an intermediate to high level in a language, you kind of learn to guess the meaning by context, so you don't always need to use a dictionary. In fact, it can be helpful to not be dependent on a dictionary, but of course, it's always good to check. So, I would say pretty much every time when I'm writing something, I'll try and look up words that I don't know. What do you use dictionaries for? Well, like I said, when I write a text and if I don't know a word, I know the word in English, but I don't know the word in that language, then I'll go and, look up the word. Or maybe even if I'm reading something like a book or an article, then, I don't actually use a dictionary. I have this tool in my web browser. It's this tool where all you have to do is you double click on a word, or sometimes even if you just hover your mouse, then you get, a translation to English. So that's super helpful, super nifty. Of course, when you use a dictionary, like having to go to the dictionary, type the word, wait for the results, that can be very time consuming. So I love using that extension. What kinds of dictionaries do you think are most useful? Well, when I was a child, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have all these things, and we just had this huge, really big dictionary. It was thousands of pages, and it was this tome, really. It was like 2 kilos or something like that. Of course, that's not very useful. It's useful, but it's just not very handy. And I'm the kind of person that I don't really like a lot of hurdles, right? So if something is a big bother, I just won't use it. So I need something that's easy. And for me personally, online dictionaries, we even have applications, but the most useful thing is something that could help you. For example, we have this extension when you're watching a Netflix, TV show, or even if you're watching a video, and if it's in, in a different language, it can translate, subtitles. There's this amazing tool that I use. So it's not exactly a dictionary, but it does the job of a dictionary. So that's what I like. Then there's also, if you're considering like a proper dictionary, an online dictionary, then there's DICT.cc, which is just amazing, especially for German. It's just perfect because you know how one word can have many different meanings, right? So it gives you like this list of like how commonly a word is used and all of that stuff, which I find super helpful. Do you think dictionaries are useful for learning a language? Well, yeah, of course. It's kind of funny, but when I was a child, and like I said, that was like 20, 25 years ago, we didn't have all this stuff, the technology that we have now. So sometimes I would just read a dictionary for fun. I know it sounds so silly, but I was a bookworm. I still am, but yeah, so I would do that. It's kind of funny, but of course, there is so much that you can learn from a dictionary, but it's not the best way. I personally think the best way to learn a language is just the good old fashioned way: get a textbook, do the exercises. A dictionary. A dictionary is a tool. It's not, your main, it's not a method of learning a language. It's a tool that you can use, in addition to your primary method. Okay, let's try part 2. So here we go. So describe a uniform you've worn, such as a school uniform or a company uniform. You should say what it looked like, when and where you needed to wear this uniform, who paid for this uniform, and explain how you felt about that uniform. So the last uniform that I wore was in secondary school, and we had this pinafore. It was this beige very light beige pinafore, and then you also had this tie that you had to wear, but the color of the tie would depend on like which house. We had this house system. We had four houses. We had red, yellow, blue, and green houses. So I don't know how they decide to split students up into houses, but everybody got assigned a house, and I was in the yellow house. So I had a yellow tie. It was actually, yellow is not really my favorite color, but that yellow was actually really nice. It wasn't a urine yellow, but it was a very nice warm yellow. Anyway, so you had that, you had this little, you had two options actually. I think I misremembered. I didn't have a pinafore. I had this jacket, a beige jacket. It had three buttons, and of course we had our tie, and then we had this pleated beige skirt that would go down below our knees, of course. And then we also had a shirt inside that you had to wear inside the jacket. So this shirt was checkered. It was kind of like a brick red, and it had these, dark yellow lines. And yeah, we had this belt as well, this blue belt, and it had this school logo on it. We also had to, of course, wear our ID cards, and then we had, black shoes, Mary Jane's, and I'm not sure if we had beige socks or white socks. I don't think we had white socks. That doesn't look good, does it? I think we had beige socks. So, yeah, basically a beige uniform, and you had to have your hair, tied up in plaits. You couldn't just, go to school in a ponytail. Otherwise, you get a remark in your calendar. So we had to wear that every single day, except I think Monday. Monday, you could wear a different uniform. It was like a sports uniform with a yellow pleated skirt. I loved it. And you had this white shirt with a cute collar, and we also had the school's logo on the back. And naturally, of course, my parents paid for it. I don't know any school child that paid for their own uniform. And I remember that we had two sets of the same uniform. So, just in case one is dirty or whatever, you can just wear the other one. So that was really nice. My mom did this really smart thing where our skirts had a pocket, but my mom added a zipper to the pocket. So that was really nice because, sometimes you carry money and, kids are so careless. They sometimes lose stuff. So that was really nifty. Okay, let's go on to part 3 and let's see what we have over here. In your country, do schools provide similar uniforms to their students? Well, no, the uniforms will depend from school to school. Some really elite schools even have hired designers to actually make a really, really nice uniform. Of course, there are some things that are similar, most boys will have shorts in primary school, and then in secondary school they have full-length trousers. They're usually dull colors. Sorry to say, but yeah, I mean, most school uniforms are kind of dull. They're pastel, or there's nothing you never see an electric blue or a red or a pink or orange or things like that. You never see lively colors. I don't know why. You always see these muted colors in uniforms. But yeah, more or less you can see that there's a pattern. There's usually a jacket or a pinafore for primary school girls, or a pleated skirt. It's always a pleated skirt. You never see A-line skirts. You never see, it's almost always, there's, of course, there can be variances. There are variances, but more or less it's kind of the same. What kinds of professionals need to wear uniforms? Well, I think chefs, of course, do that, don't they? They have to have their, chef uniform. And then there's also, of course, doctors, nurses. They have to have their scrubs. You also have these people that work at airports. They have to have these high visibility, jackets. They're not yellow or orange, so you can see, in the dark. In fact, a lot of laborers will often have to wear those high visibility reflective jackets as well. So there's a lot of professions where, for safety reasons or for visibility reasons, you have that kind of a uniform. But I've never had a job where I had to wear a uniform. But there's also some jobs where you don't exactly have a fixed outfit to wear, but you have to adhere to a certain style. Like maybe you have to wear, formal clothing. Like you have to show up in, a two-piece or three-piece suit or whatever, right? Every single day, especially if you work in, like finance or customer-facing roles, right? Bank, stuff like that. You cannot just come up, in a t-shirt and shorts and whatever. So it's not exactly a uniform, but it is a uniform style of clothing. So there's, that to consider as well. Do you think people wear clothes that reflect their personality? I mean, most people do, or would at least like to. Now, there's many factors. Some people don't care. They just pick whatever is there, whatever is clean. Some people prefer to wear the same thing, right? Like Steve Jobs and his black turtleneck. But that's a part of his personality, isn't it? I mean, yes, it's less of a headache when you have just one thing to wear, but it's very, sleek, minimalistic. It kind of reflects his personality, don't you think? So, but of course, I mean, not everybody can afford to style themselves the way they would like to, right? There's always constraints to think about. Sometimes it can be, a budget problem where you may not have the money to really express yourself the way you want to. It's obviously easier when you're an adult and you have a source of income, but when you think about like children, right? Children normally they just wear whatever their parents get them. So I mean, teenagers have a little more freedom. They might have some income as well, so they can. So it depends. I mean, I think most people would like to dress according to their personality, but that's not always realistically possible. Sometimes it could be a budget problem. Sometimes it can be an age problem where if you're a child you don't get much of a say anyway. Do you think women's clothes show more variety than men's clothes? Oh, definitely. It's this thought that I always have is I'm so happy that I'm a woman because we just have so much, in terms of fashion. Men's fashion is so limited. It's kind of sad, isn't it? Women can wear so many different things, but I mean, it's like, and when you consider the size of the industry, right? Women's fashion versus men's fashion, there's such a huge difference in market cap, in the colors, styles, designs, and everything. It's great. I mean, for a woman, of course, you have so many options, and you're always pandered to. But I think it's also kind of difficult for men to find something that really, fits them, looks good on them, flatters them, because there are just not that many, companies and designers that really, help men find their personal style. You walk into a mall and you'll find tons and tons and tons of stores that cater to women, but only a handful that cater to men. It's a kind of sad, actually. I mean, there's no reason why it has to be that way, but of course we have these, gender roles in society where men might not feel comfortable. Like obviously, a man cannot really wear a skirt. You can, nothing's stopping you, but most people wouldn't do it. Like there's nothing stopping you, but people will look at you oddly and things like that. So there's just, less variety. It's kind of sad, but oh well. Okay, so that's that for today. If you like the video, don't forget to click on like and subscribe if you haven't already. We have tons of content, so don't forget to check all of that out. And don't forget to share the video if you found it useful. You could share it with somebody who's preparing for the exam. All right then, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.